Hey, welcome. Today we're going to dig into a huge paradox at the very heart of modern health. It's one that explains why so much of the advice we get about weight loss, well, it just doesn't add up. So let's get right into it.
So here's the central mystery. Since the 1970s, data shows us that our reported daily calorie intake has actually dipped a little. But in that exact same time frame, obesity rates have literally tripled. So for all supposedly eating less, how on earth are we getting sicker? It just doesn't make sense.
And you can see that disconnect right here, clear as day. On one side, you have reported calories staying pretty much flat. On the other, you have obesity rates just skyrocketing. This visual just screams that the simple advice we've all been given for decades is missing something huge.
And you know, that missing piece, it's taken us down a really damaging road. For too long, we've been treating a complex biological problem as if it's a simple moral one. It's framed weight gain not as a physiological response to our environment, but as some kind of personal failure, a lack of willpower. And that idea is just fundamentally wrong.
All right, so to really get what's happening here, we have to first deconstruct the old model, the one that, let's be honest, almost all of us were taught. I'm talking about the myth of the simple furnace.
The whole calories in, calories out idea didn't come from studying actual human beings. Nope, it came from a lab experiment way back in the early 1900s. A chemist literally burned food in a sealed metal box to measure how much heat it released. It was a clever way to measure potential energy, but a metal box is not a human body, not even close. And this, right here, gets to the absolute core of the mistake. The old model sees the body as a simple furnace, where a calorie of sugar is the same as a calorie of protein. It's just a passive calculator. But the reality? Our bodies are these incredibly complex, dynamic organisms run by a whole symphony of hormones, feedback loops, and ancient survival programming. And it's these hormones, right? The very things the old model completely ignores. They're the real bosses of your metabolism. They're the ones calling the shots, deciding exactly what your body does with every bit of energy you consume. And if there's a CEO of this operation, it's gotta be insulin. Now think of insulin as a powerful one-way switch. When you eat carbs, insulin rises. Its main job is to tell your cells, hey, open up, time to store some energy. Basically, when insulin is up, your body is in full-on storage mode. And burning fat, yeah, that's just not happening. Okay, let's make this super clear. Imagine 200 calories of pure table sugar versus 200 calories of chicken breast. The sugar, bam, it sends your insulin through the roof, screaming at your body to store fat. But the chicken? It causes barely a blip on the insulin radar. Your body actually has to burn energy to digest it, and it sends powerful signals to your brain that you're full.
And that is the key takeaway here. The number on the label might be identical, but the hormonal instruction, the biological outcome, is wildly different. It's the quality of the food that tells your body what to do, not just the raw quantity of calories. Which, of course, brings us to the modern world, and why just eating less can feel like an impossible task. We've got to talk about the food itself, and specifically, the ultra-processed food trap. You gotta understand, things like sugary cereals, chips, and most packaged snacks, they aren't really food in the traditional sense. They're engineered products. They're designed to be hyper-palatable, which is a fancy way of saying irresistible. They're stripped of fiber, they're super easy to eat fast, meaning you can wolf down a ton of calories before your brain can even send the "hey, I'm full" signal. Okay, check this out. There was this incredible study at the National Institutes of Health that put this idea to the test. Researchers had one group eat an ultra-processed diet and another eat a diet of whole foods. And here's the kicker. On paper, these diets were perfectly matched for calories, fat, sugar, all the usual suspects. So what happened? Well, the result was absolutely stunning. When both groups were allowed to eat as much as they wanted, the folks on the ultra-processed diet just spontaneously ate 500 extra calories every single day, without even trying.
Let me be clear. This was not a willpower problem. This was a food engineering solution. The very structure of the food was designed to bypass our natural fullness cues. It was the food itself that drove the overeating. Willpower had almost nothing to do with it. So let's say you do manage to power through and cut calories, and you start to lose some weight. What happens then? Well, your body has other plans. You see, it's a survival machine that's been perfected over millennia to prevent starvation, not to help you look good for beach season. So let's just walk through what happens. First, you start eating less, but your body, it doesn't see a diet, It sees a famine, a survival threat, and it fights back hard. Your metabolism slows down to conserve energy. Your engine starts running colder to save fuel. At the same time, your main hunger hormone, ghrelin, goes into overdrive, making you feel ravenously, relentlessly hungry. The most famous example of this comes from studies of contestants on The Biggest Loser. Even 6 years after the show ended, their metabolisms were still running slow, and they reported being plagued by constant, gnawing hunger. Their bodies were actively trying to get back to their highest weight. This isn't a feeling, this is pure biology.
So if fighting our own biology is basically a losing battle, what's the alternative? Well, the answer is pretty simple, actually. We have to stop fighting our biology and start working with it.
And that, right there, requires a total shift in how we think about this whole thing. The real goal isn't just to blindly slash calories. It's to change the quality of our food so that we're sending the right hormonal signals to our bodies. So what does this actually look like in practice? It means you're prioritizing protein and fiber, the two things that are proven to make you feel full and support a healthy metabolism. It means you're kicking the ultra-processed stuff to the curb, removing the very things designed to make you overeat. It means you're managing your whole hormonal environment. That means sleep and stress matter too. And finally, you learn to cook. Seriously, taking control of your ingredients is a metabolic superpower. So here's the new framework. Look, calories matter, of course they do. But think of them as the outcome or the result of your biology, not the main lever you should be trying to pull. Get the hormones and the food quality right, and you'll find the calories often fall into place on their own. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. After decades of failed advice, is the answer really just more disciplined calorie counting? Or is it finally time to focus on changing the food itself and to start working with our amazing biology instead of constantly fighting against it? Thanks for joining us.